Oak trees are classic providers of shade in the American landscape. They're also very popular in a lot of other countries. Most oaks grow as tall trees, but there are some that are more shrub-like that only reach a few feet tall. I think a lot of people are surprised to learn that there are about 600 different species of oaks throughout the world. And it's interesting that the plants only occur in the northern hemisphere. We have 23 different species of oak right here native to Oklahoma, and several of these make really nice shade trees. For the last 2 years, a couple of our native oak trees have been selected as Oklahoma proven trees. Last year, the Shumard oak was the recipient of this honor, and this year, the 2002 Oklahoma tree is the bur oak, with large acorns. Another oak tree, one from the other side of the world that grows well here in Oklahoma, is the Sawtooth Oak. It comes to us from the Asian countries of China, Japan, and Korea. It's called the Sawtooth Oak because of its leaves. It has these interesting dentations around the outer edge that sort of look like the jagged teeth of a saw. So it doesn't really look like your typical oak leaves. The acorns are also quite interesting. They have very frilly caps that cover a little more than half of the acorn. You can see we've got some green ones here and some brown ones, and they have these really long frilly scales. So they sort of look like small bur oak acorns. Well, the Sawtooth Oak can get to be about 50 to 60 feet tall. And even though it's a pretty fast-growing tree, they still have really strong wood. The trees can get a little bit of iron chlorosis out in the western part of Oklahoma, but here in Stillwater, these trees have stayed green where pin oaks have turned yellow. The trees are pretty tough. They can handle quite a few different types of soil, and they're tolerant of a lot of different moisture conditions. The Sawtooth Oak is not just real well known in Oklahoma, but a tree that I think should be planted a lot more, especially in the central and the eastern parts of the state. A tree that looks similar to the Sawtooth Oak is the Chinese chestnut. And as its name applies, the Chinese chestnut is of Asian origin, just like the Sawtooth Oak. Now, another reason that the two trees look a lot alike is because chestnuts and oaks are in the same family, the Fagaceae, or the beech family. You can see I've got a branch of the Sawtooth Oak. The leaves look very similar. The chestnut leaves are a little bit wider, but we flip them over, you can see a difference on the underside of the leaves. The Chinese chestnut has sort of a whitish cast. The buds on the Chinese chestnut are a lot smaller than the buds on the Sawtooth Oak. Get these large pointed buds here on the Sawtooth Oak and the smaller tannish color buds of the Chinese chestnut. Now, of course, this time of the year, the trees are pretty easy to tell apart because of the fruit. The Chinese chestnut has these large, prickly, husked fruits that split open and reveal the little chestnut inside. These are almost painful even to handle. These spines are very stiff, very sharp, and they can really be painful if you step on one with a bare foot. But again, the chestnuts are edible. One of the downsides would be the husks lying on the ground, having to clean those up, and you certainly wouldn't want to step on one of those with a bare foot. But these chestnuts are actually cherished by squirrels everywhere. The Chinese chestnut gets to be about 30 to 40 feet tall, so it's a fairly small tree. This one also can have some problems with iron chlorosis out in the alkaline soils in the western part of Oklahoma. But overall, a pretty good tree for the rest of the state. The Chinese chestnut has good resistance to chestnut blight, the disease that pretty much wiped out our American chestnuts in the early part of the century. Over in remote areas in eastern Oklahoma, we have two species of native chestnuts. We have the Ozark chinkapin, and we have the Allegheny chinkapin. These are small trees, or more like large shrubs, but they have the same type of chestnut fruit, but it's a lot smaller. So maybe you've seen those before if you've been hiking around in some of the areas in the eastern part of the state. Well, as it gets close to Christmas time and we have Jack Frost nipping at our nose, we may have to come out here and gather up some of these Chinese chestnuts and roast them over an open fire.